Hello, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone that's participating. Our fantastic lineup of speakers have already been introduced. We will have the chance to listen to our great speakers that will talk about their expertise and perspectives on such a relevant topic as innovation. And it is really a very timely topic in all ecosystems across the world. Ecosystems are essential for innovation, and these ecosystems, if they are well guided and organized, they foster local environments, and in our case, the health sector, to renovate itself and introduce an environment that fosters active technology development that will be positive for everyone in society. So I will give the floor to Fernando Mattos that will talk about the Brazilian experience. But before that, I would like to thank Rodrigo for the invitation. Thank you for inviting Matter Day Network to be the moderator this morning in this such interesting panel on the importance of innovation ecosystems. So we will even tell you that our participants will present their ideas, their expertise in 10, 15 minutes. And it is important to take this opportunity to ask your questions. Please ask your questions and participate in our chat. So it'll be an honor. I'll be the moderator. And what a privilege to listen to this fantastic lineup of speakers. Fernando, you can take the floor. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers, especially José, Henrique, and Rodrigo. I would like to thank and congratulate our two other speakers that are here this morning with us, sharing their expertise and knowledge in innovation ecosystems. And this is a very great chance and opportunity we have to learn and share best practices in health techs and healthcare, an area I admire, especially for everything that has flourished and developed during the pandemic, and everything we are witnessing with the development of the vaccine and treatment for COVID-19 patients. So first, let me briefly tell you what an innovation office is. Our department is a secretariat in the city that articulates and thinks about the future, considering new digital transformation technologies, new challenges in a very dynamic society, with the need to strengthen innovation ecosystems that already exist in the city. Let me give you some examples of what we have done. There is a project called Digital Citizen that will be launched September the 1st. 20% of newborns in the city of Porto Alegre will be born as digital citizens with all documents in a site where their family can include information with all digital certificates, and it'll be the first digital generation in the city. The second is the COVID georeferencing system that we're trying to use GIS technology to assess concentrations of vulnerable or contaminated people locations 15 days before contaminations. So it is a pilot project that is running for 60 days, and if it works, it'll be an example for other cities. So we're also organizing a health hub with 3 examples that are the main income generators in the city of Porto Alegre. Our city has a very well-developed health sector, and there are great examples of companies that are very successful in the health sector. We have, as is said in this summit, that we are running in the 2nd position of the best institutional health institutions in the country. So innovation and ecosystems, what a great topic. How are these 2 things connected? Well, if we translate this in very simple terms, innovation is to add value generated by the implementation of a new idea. There's nothing as old as the word innovate. Innovation can be an innovation for you, not for everybody, but for you. You implement something that's an innovation and you add value. You add value by the task of implementing a new idea. So human needs are born with our kind. Humankind started eating meat, started eating roots, cooked meat, developed muscles, developed a sizable brain, and developed solutions for our daily life problems. And that is how our species stood out. And all of these steps forward are technologies. Everything that solves a problem is a technology. So there is an American paleontologist, and she was asked, when humankind started, these beings that developed, when did they become human beings? And she said that from her perspective, the civilization benchmark that transformed us into humans is the calcification of the femur bone of a skeleton found thousands of years ago. So why is this a landmark? Why is this the paradigm of the birth of humankind? Because if at that time, if somebody broke the femur, he or she would die. This human being would die if there was nobody that could take care of this person, bring back food to this person, take care of this person. So the birth of our species is an act of love, of sympathy for the other. And healthcare is the area that introduced and incorporated all of these social technologies and transformed what was an empirical act, an innovation, into a scientific act based in knowledge using state-of-the-art technologies. So we solve problems, taking care of the other, how to communicate with others, speech. The moment in which we created the future, when we started coordinating ourselves in large groups to face other problems. These technologies are social technologies, highly sophisticated social technologies. In spite they were never digital, there were no devices, but they are humankind nature's technologies. So innovation is an old companion of humankind, and there are social innovations. And in spite of the fact that we think that technological innovations are the only innovations, we have to think about what we are and where we're heading towards. We need to solve our society's problems. So what is the difference between the Stone Age and today? Well, the difference is that we are still innovating, but innovations are so fast. The translation between the concept to technology and implementation is so fast. So there has been a revolution in the speed of implementation of innovations. There has been an acceleration of a curve that is growing at an extraordinary speed. So if you consider, for instance, the first technologies, steam engines. This was invented by an engineer, by a guy, a very creative guy, a mathematician in the school of Alexandria. In the first century, he created a small object, a round object. He put water in it. It boiled. He put two holes, and that ball spinned around an axis. And this engine that was created in century 1, it was developed 1,600 years later. And it was used in 1772 as an engine of transformation. So the process of having a concept, developing the concept, and transforming the concept in value is a very complex process. And what about radio waves? In 1881, the first radio that transmitted a sign and took place in 1920, 32 years later. So the thing is that today, innovations are compressed in time, and scientific development and the implementation of the use of scientific knowledge is so quick. And this creates great social transformation. So innovation is old. An ecosystem is old. We've lived in ecosystems from the beginning of mankind. So what's the difference between ecosystems? Ecosystems differ because these ecosystems we have now are ecosystems in the knowledge society. And knowledge society has a characteristic of accumulating knowledge and developing solutions oriented or focused in new problems at larger scales. And this way of developing solutions, and in the healthcare with the miracle in knowledge society where we developed 10 vaccines in 1 year, and many are used, of course. This is a miracle in this knowledge society because there has been a global mobilization focused on one objective. And which is the critical factor that makes this happen? The critical factor that makes this happen is the articulation of 4 agents, determinant agents in the knowledge ecosystem. First, government, companies, universities, and society. These 4 major wings of an helix with 4 blades, 5 blades, because we have to introduce maybe sustainability. So these axes are the turning engine in society that make social transformations into impacts. And the new phenomenon that arises in this knowledge society environment is called digital technology. When we talk about digital technology, we talk about everything that is developed with the first calculators, with the first computers, with the first data processing machines, which reached such a level of sophistication and such a storage, transmission, and processing capacity that it's almost crazy. And with the arrival of with quantum and 5G computing and a number of other technologies associated to digital technologies, we will witness a whole new transformation in society with high impact in the quality of life and the way we live. So the question is, what are we going to do with this and how are we going to do it? Okay, and why digital technology is so important and why do I separate it from the rest? When you digitalize knowledge, you dematerialize knowledge. You transform a book in a bit. It's not ink and paper, it's a bit. And you can storage very cheaply. You can move it fast. So you dematerialize content and you demonetize content. And if you demonetize content, you drop costs and you democratize access. So the thing with digital technology in this ecosystem in knowledge society is that it is a very, very powerful tool to overcome complex problems. It is a very powerful tool to overcome exponential problems. And we have to build appropriate conditions so that these 4 components of ecosystems become stronger And government, the state that represents us, has to focus the results of these technologies so that the pervasiveness of this technology can be used everywhere. Large-scale education. I don't need to put a child in a classroom. I can educate fast with information technologies. During the pandemic, we have seen how the protocol issues, simple hygiene issues can speed up knowledge, communication, and cut viral exposure. In this sense, the pandemic, together with Knowledge Society, was fantastic, a great step forward for the planet because it exposed ruthlessly that on the one hand, there is abundant technology, but there's a lack of social technology to solve problems we have as a society. Let me give you some examples. 7 people die of hunger every minute in the world. 3 people die of thirst per minute in the world. 2 people die every minute due to malaria in the world. And this is greater than the pandemic, unfortunately. And we do have technologies to solve these problems as we are developing technologies to solve the pandemic. So what are the conclusions I can draw to stick to my 10, 15 minutes? Well, my conclusions are the following. First, we have a fantastic opportunity to improve humankind. A fantastic chance, because from the perspective of the pandemic, all of us understood that there are some problems that are not individual problems, are collective problems. If you are contaminated by a quick reproducing virus, if nothing is done, we'll all fall victims. Second, all of us discovered that there is a terrible social and economic inclusion disparity, inequality everywhere, but especially here in Brazil. So we need digital technologies, management technologies, social technologies, especially to try to transform knowledge society ecosystems, foster large enough transformations so that social inequalities become a gap that puts survival of all of us at risk. Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity of having me today. And I'm certain that this summit is a fantastic example of what communication technology and information technology can do in the dissemination of knowledge and sharing of wealth amongst everyone in society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fernando. I believe you presented to us a very precise image of our society since the beginning of the innovation processes, but also the democratization of innovation through the ecosystem. I'm sure we will have very interesting questions that are already beginning to arrive. But to continue our session and now giving a focus to the international perspective, I would like to call Lena Rogovin. I hope I have pronounced your name correctly. She is the Senior Digital Health and Life Science Analyst in Startups at the National Central. It's a privilege to participate and moderate a session with you in it. So you have 10 to 12 minutes for your presentation.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure and honor. Thank you for the invitation. A couple of words about Startup Nation Central. Startup Nation Central is an independent NGO, Israeli-based NGO, with just one goal, but a big goal, to connect Israeli innovation to global companies, governments, other non-profit organizations. And what we do is basically two major things. One part of our activity is data and knowledge, and we do it via our platform, online platform called Startup Nation Finder. That's, if you will, a crunch base for Israeli innovation, and has all the information about what's happening in Israeli ecosystem. It's online and free of charge, so that's the basic for all our activity. And the second part is actually bringing the delegations of multinationals, mostly those which do not have any innovation activity in Israel yet, but those who understand that this is a place to be, and connect them to Israeli innovation. So that's Startup Nation Central in a nutshell. So I would love to talk today about Israel as a case study for the importance of innovation ecosystems. I think we have proved this, that this works indeed. I'm digital health analyst, so that's my area of focus, and I'll talk about this example. We have almost 700 digital health startups on the ground in various stages of development. This makes digital health sector the largest innovative sector in Israel. There are more companies in digital health than in fintech or cybersecurity, which are by far the most advanced industries in Israeli innovation. But that's not just a big bunch of startups. That's a connected ecosystem, and it's very diversified. It consists of Israeli healthcare system itself, the government, which is not just a regulator, but a full participant of this industry, providing all kinds of programs and support for innovation, starting from early stage and up to all stages of development. All kinds of multinationals which have presence in Israel for many years. We have more than 300 R&D centers of multinational companies active in digital health. Actually, Johnson & Johnson is a great example of wide presence of multinational on the ground. They have like all kinds of presence, starting from R&D center on the ground, being a partner in one of digital health incubators, investing through its corporate venture fund, and being just a very active player. And on top of of R&D centers, there are open innovation labs. This is something, the model of operations, which became very popular over the past several years. It's much cheaper and much more agile, and offers multinational companies a chance to reach out to the entire innovative ecosystem at relatively low cost, and receive very tailor-made solutions to their challenges. And probably the most important part of this ecosystem is unique Israeli healthcare ecosystem, which consists of 4 HMOs, healthcare maintenance organizations. This is pretty unique structure. There are several countries in the world where this structure exists. So that's HMO is both healthcare provider and healthcare insurance company. And since there are only 4 of those, and they cover the entire Israeli population, we have universal healthcare services law. They have a great exposure to data, and they have realized that data is a very important asset. We're talking about medical data, EMR, electronic medical record. This is something they need to capitalize on, and it's a win-win situation for both healthcare providers and for external innovation. So our HMOs, as well as large hospitals, started to digitalize their healthcare data already 25 years ago. By now, almost 100% of Israeli medical data is digitalized. The most obvious and recent example how it can help public health is a super successful vaccination campaign together with Pfizer. So Israel managed to get most of its population, like 70% of its grown-up population vaccinated, exactly because of this access to data. So we were the only country in the world which was able to offer in exchange data, like big data and general statistics on everything around the vaccination process. Israel is the country of immigrants. We have people from more than 100 countries living here. So that's an invaluable source of healthcare-related insights. That's the same reason why the most advanced and the strongest Israeli digital health companies are data-based. They have access to data. And since we have a very, very strong technology expertise, so Israel is a startup nation. It's just not just some, general phrase. This is very much so because of very, very high level of expertise in advanced technologies, including AI and all other advanced technologies which are used in healthcare, in health tech. More and more. So the combination of these advanced tech capabilities, medical data, and willingness of healthcare providers to partner, to cooperate on this innovation. That's exactly what drives this sector development. I have 3 minutes to wrap up. So I wanted to summarize exactly the importance and the role of all kinds of ecosystem players in this industry. So first takeaway, this is connected ecosystems, various types of players, they work together, they know how to work together, and they want to work together. The second is participation of multinational corporations in innovation. So it's actually a two-way activity. On the one hand, R&D centers of multinationals are a great source of expertise, of very high quality professionals for the ecosystem. On the other hand, multinationals are a source of challenges, of real life challenges large global corporations are facing, and they bring this knowledge to the ecosystem. So Israeli startups know what challenges they have to address. And the last but not least, as I said, healthcare providers, each HMO, each large hospital has some sort of innovation platform to work with external innovation, and there is a great amount of startups coming out these platforms, and there are tens of startups which are not startups anymore, more that are advanced companies which basically work with these HMOs and hospitals on commercial basis, and they're integral part of their workflows. Like just an example, Sheba Hospital, which is the largest hospital in Israel, they have implemented during the time of Corona crisis solutions of about 30 startups. It's now part of Sheba workflow. So that's I think that's it from me, and thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'm happy to answer the questions at the end of the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Lena. Actually, we do have very little time, unfortunately, to hear about all experience, especially in such a powerful ecosystem such as Israel's. and this very important awareness that you focus on and use as a tool through people who go to Israel to be acquainted with how the innovations take place. And Israel is an example of a country that advanced with high technology, with data, and with the coordination between the different actors and players in the health segment. And they, of course, the country came out very strongly and as an example to the rest of the world. Congratulations for your work and thank you for your presentation. And lastly, but not least, of course, we have the participation of Sharon Chan. She is head of Johnson & Johnson's JLABS innovation area. Johnson & Johnson is one of the major companies in our segment which has developed and contributed the most to innovation and to novelties and breakthroughs in health. So again, Sharon, it will be a pleasure to listen to your comments. I am sure that we will be able to exploit points such as how J&J has given direction to innovation in the different ecosystems. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you also for the invitation to bring us all together today, my nighttime, your morning time, on a course such as this to discuss innovation ecosystems. And some of the key points that Fernando mentioned and also Lena mentioned, I'm also going to touch on them and join the dots and do my best to try and join the dots. So at Johnson & Johnson Innovation, we are all about creating a global network to accelerate innovation with the aim to help some of the world's biggest healthcare challenges. Innovation is occurring all around the world, but how do we harness it to bring potential solutions to patients? And how do we work with entrepreneurs and academics and help enable them to take their products and technologies from concept to commercialization? So Johnson & Johnson Innovation was indeed founded to provide a solution of this through 4 key pillars. Our Johnson & Johnson Innovation JLABS incubation facilities, which I'm the head of in Shanghai, provides early stage innovators with state-of-the-art infrastructure and access to expertise with experts across the Johnson & Johnson family of companies in scientific R&D and commercialization. Our innovation centers, which help to accelerate innovation through creating collaborations with innovators around the world. JJDC, which is our strategic venture arm and long-term investment partners, helps entrepreneurs. And finally, our Janssen business development teams, they support a long and valuable relationship through licensing, mergers and acquisitions, and alliance management. And our presence spans the globe, with presence in major life science hotspots, including 14 JLABS and 4 innovation centers. And in Asia Pacific, we have JLABS at Shanghai and the Asia Pacific Innovation Center. And we collaborate as one team to identify opportunities and partner and collaborate on early stage research and startup opportunities across pharmaceuticals, medical devices, consumer health, vision care, and new business models. So at Johnson & Johnson Innovation, our aim is really to advance innovative products and solutions to improve human health by partnering and collaborating with and enabling innovators, right, to advance their technologies through access to a range of incubation and commercialization resources. And our scale as part of the world's largest and most diversified healthcare company and comprehensive scope across so many areas of healthcare and life sciences is unique and a strong differentiator in our being able to address the healthcare challenges and give actually multiple perspectives. So when it comes to JLABS, our incubators, what's our unique offering? actually, JLABS started off as an experiment, a completely new approach to external innovation, not only for our company, but for the healthcare industry as a whole. So we set out to foster innovation and help accelerate the development of breakthrough healthcare potential solutions, giving startups, right, the access to the same resources they would normally get for working for a large company. But it's more than just a combination of shared and private lab and office space, lab equipment, value-added support, operational support, education and business services. We provide access to an ecosystem that can help transform ideas from concept to reality. So our goal is to allow our startups, our resident companies, to focus on making the right connections and provide a capital efficient and flexible platform that allows them to focus on what they do best, to focus on the science. And our intent, and will always be, is to allow innovators to do what they do best, whilst working with us with the aim to improve the lives of patients and people. And since actually opening in June 2019, JLABS at Shanghai, we've now supported a total of 55 startups innovating across pharma, medical devices, consumer, and digital health. And in terms of some of the highlights and successes coming out from JLABS, we were founded, JLABS, in 2012 with our first facility in San Diego. And now globally, we've helped over 725 startups to succeed across the whole spectrum of healthcare. These 725 startups have raised over 46 billion US dollars. We've had 37 IPOs and we've had 25 acquisitions. So as head of JLABS in Asia Pacific, I'm very focused on nurturing the innovation ecosystem in some of the world's fastest growing and innovative countries, to include China, Japan, South Korea, Singapore, Australia, and India, among others. And with China and India sharing status as fellow BRIC countries, I hope that our experience at JLABS at Shanghai will resonate with many of you. And just alone in the 1.5 years that JLABS at Shanghai has been open, our 55 residence companies in JLABS at Shanghai, we've raised over 2.1 billion US dollars in financing and in strategic partnerships or collaborations. And this even includes 1 IPO, 2 acquisitions, and over 50 deals. The deals are really important, and 1 in 5 JLABS companies, 20%, they've actually secured deals with a company from the Johnson & Johnson family of companies. And we're also very proud to champion diversity across our portfolio of companies. In the total JLABS portfolio, 30% are led by women, and 60% are first-time entrepreneurs, another 40% serial entrepreneurs. And where we do measure ethnic minorities, 30% are also in management leading positions. So it's from our engagement on site with residents to this global reach. We feel we have successfully supported innovation region and across the world to really bring life-changing health and wellness potential solutions. So in brief, what is our role in collaboration, which has been mentioned by, I think, everyone today so far, in driving innovation. At Johnson & Johnson Innovation, we believe that a great idea can come from anywhere. And when we see entrepreneurs, academics, and innovators, they create breakthrough potential solutions every day. There's an ability, even an eagerness to take risk, to push barriers, and to find transformational potential solutions. But we know that bringing new healthcare innovations to the market isn't easy, in particular in the life sciences. Startups often need financial resources, facilities, expertise in regulatory policy and commercialization, as well as the global networks needed to help bring their science and technology to patients around the world. And so startups and big pharma alike are also challenged to adapt to the global economic climate and regulatory requirements to address unmet needs. And at Johnson, we know that no single company has a monopoly on innovation, and no single company can do it alone. And just like my fellow panelists today, we all need partners. Industry needs innovation, small, nimble teams, and cost savings. Entrepreneurs need infrastructure, capital, and expertise in science and commercialization. And currently, the COVID-19 pandemic has only just reinforced these interdependencies. And so to me, in summary, collaboration is vital to create an open innovation ecosystem where there is a robust exchange of ideas and resources to drive innovation by supporting innovators' successes in creating these potential breakthrough healthcare solutions. Thanks. Now looking forward to answering a few questions.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you for sharing your experience, Johnson & Johnson's experience with us, and the success of JLABS is translated in the figures that you mentioned, Sharon. Businesses accomplished, companies that have established and that could break the barrier, the startup barrier, and become established and successful companies in the market, as you mentioned. And as you have been the last one to take the floor, let's take advantage of this opportunity and ask you a question directly, Sharon. A question that I believe will help us when we talk about innovation ecosystems. Everything we're talking about here with entrepreneurs, with those that are starting in the startup environment, when they have an idea, when they're really trying to innovate. One of the main barriers entrepreneurs and innovators encounter when this person faces a startup is the field of practice, is to have the possibility to put your idea into practice, test your idea, and in fact, prove that your idea, that your company, that your startup could eventually bring value to a specific organization. But apparently you have a model in JLABS partnering with Johnson & Johnson that really works very well, Sharon. So what is the tip? What is the best practice that you could share with us in terms of this relationship amongst the field of practice and these startups so that they can put their activities in practice?
Thank you. That's a great question. And I did allude to it a little bit in my opening remarks, which is, when you're a startup, I can give you the example. In life sciences, the road to commercialization is very different. So in technology, for example, you can get a couple of guys, give them $100,000 and boom, the next day you've got Uber, WeChat, Facebook, TikTok, you've got all these apps, right? But in life sciences, it's very different because you need to get together a group of experts in science and business. You got to do experiments, you got to do research, you got to do clinical trials, you got to get regulatory approval. And if you can get through all of that, because only 5% in this industry does get successful, you're going to need somebody to pay for it. So the journey to commercialization is very different. And as a startup, it's those barriers, the infrastructure, lab equipment, fluorescent microscopes, BSL-2 labs, flow cytometers, HPLCs, 3D printers. That's all very, very expensive, as well as the knowledge to run and operate these labs. So fundraising is also a barrier, as well as expertise. So when we talk about J&J and working with startups, for startups needing infrastructure, the expertise, and the capital, we provide that through JLABS. From a Johnson & Johnson perspective, or any large company, again, we want to have innovation. We want small, nimble teams, and we all want cost savings. So again, it's the emphasis of industry and startups. They need one another. In terms of kind of guiding on probability of success, infrastructure, providing the operational support, providing the mentorship. But at JLABS, and you did say about how, in terms of the highlights and the numbers, we do actually have a selection process and criteria for those wanting to join JLABS. And when we look at the incoming applications to join our incubators, it is a global process and it occurs all year round, because a great idea can come from anywhere, anyone, and at any time. So, there are criteria that we look at when we look at what to bring in. We definitely look at if the company is doing transformational science. Are they developing, discovering, or delivering innovation that has the potential to add years and quality of life to people in need? So we're always looking for faster and better results from unique and different approaches. Secondly, right, we also look for companies that address a significant unmet need, particularly for the most pressing healthcare needs facing patients and around the world. So the question we often ask ourselves when we incubate companies is, how much benefit could the technology bring to patients? Thirdly, how strong is the management team? As we know that having the right team is really critical to any startup success. So we're always looking for rockstar teams. And finally, how much strategic alignment is there between the startup, the resident company, and the Johnson & Johnson family of companies? Because again, mentorship, having the same end goals, the same purpose, is also really the key to success. So ultimately, when you work together, we provide innovators access to networks, resources, expertise, to hopefully take their great idea of today and, as you say, turn that into the breakthrough solution of tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's why you're so successful with this successful ecosystem. And Jose Vilar, a question for you. I would like to ask Lena the following question, Lena. One of the main challenges that we see now during this pandemic, that we're living through in this pandemic, is training of people, training of personnel. We have had to change gears while in function. I mean, it's a great challenge in our sector. We had to change so many different things and we had to reinvent ourselves. In terms of education, what are you doing? I mean, what's the role of innovation ecosystems and innovation in training of people for the development of people? How can we help these organizations have best skilled people and to promote education and training through these ecosystems or supporting organizations in their needs? How have you done this in your case, Lena?
Yeah, this is a great question. As everywhere else in the world, everything became remote, and undoubtedly it was a difficult time for everyone. On a positive side, there is a number, and there is a growing number of startups addressing this particular challenge, providing remote training using advanced technologies like virtual reality, augmented reality, and all kind of simulation to train medical professionals. And I think that this was one of one of the areas in the sector, alongside with telehealth and telemedicine, which actually advanced like very significantly because of this problem. So that's as every crisis that became like both a crisis and an opportunity for remote learning. And of course, it was like from our standpoint as an organization, we're an organization working with startups through the ecosystem with clients, and the core of our activity is actually bringing delegations to Israel, bringing startups, organizing all kinds of educational events like workshops and meetups and innovation challenges. And the normal times, we do it almost like every on a daily basis. We have very nice offices in Tel Aviv, and we have a special place called the Hub, which normally hosts like 100 people, and it's a well-known place in the ecosystem, and people come there. But it was like all of our events and all our community activity was cancelled for year and a half, and we managed doing all this remotely. Like if we used to bring about 70 plus delegations every year physically, in last year 2020 we did it over Zoom or Microsoft Teams, and it all worked, but of course, it's more of temporary solutions. We are going back to these days at the more hybrid, in-person / online activity. So that's probably what's going to stay.
Great. This is what we have seen here too. Fantastic. And I believe that ecosystems can really help in terms of virtual reality, inclusion of technologies to bring everyone closer without really being together in a closed environment. Bring practice and theory closer. This has also been created in national ecosystems, trying to implement and develop these practices. So it's great to listen to your experience. Fernando, a question for you, Fernando. Rafael da Silva Muniz, first, he starts talking about the fact that innovation is a question of survival. And he says, how can we develop an ecosystem and innovation in a developing country like Brazil? And this has to do with something that you mentioned in your presentation. How can innovation make all possibilities more democratic? How can innovation and ecosystems bring more opportunity to a country that has so many challenges as we do here in Brazil? Great, yes, it's a great question. And the comment is the following. Innovation has always been about survival. Those that did not innovate, well, they stayed behind. So for us, it is a very quick process to leave behind or out those that do not innovate. So I would like to take advantage of Lena's and Sharon's presentations to say that we have a very successful experience in the creation of an ecosystem where large companies as Marco Polo and Randon, 2 and 3 others, from Caxias to Sur, which is a mobility and metal mechanics hub in the south of Brazil, got together and created an ecosystem, attracted startups, and did the following. They defined which were the main challenges of the 4 companies. What problem did they want to overcome? And what they did was invited these startups to be part of the companies after a training process, and they challenged the companies to allocate funds to solve concrete problems. As Johnson & Johnson, your example is iconic because when a company includes partners to develop innovation focused on its business strategy, what you're doing is you're putting together two very essential components, which is knowledge and the appetite of hunger for risk that new companies have with a need that large companies have to be faster, more innovative, more efficient. Think about open innovation and put resources available. And when you talk about resources, we not only talk about financial resources, as Sharon mentioned, but networking resources, relationship resources, access resources, access to equipment, to knowledge, as you mentioned, Jose Henrique, and basically to have a specific problem that has to be solved. So there is a maturing process for innovation ecosystems when companies that are well established and have very structured architecture leave this process aside and invite younger partners, agile startups that have hunger for risk, tolerance for mistakes, and need mature partners. So these examples are very successful examples across the world, as is the case of Israel, as is the case of Johnson & Johnson. And I wanted to make a comment. Apart from the large companies, apart from startups, there is a phenomenon, which is the environment in which they are involved, the legal and institutional framework. That's why Israel is a startup nation, isn't it? I mean, it's a nation of startups because there is a welcoming environment. And in the specific case of Israel, and I believe that Johnson & Johnson probably shares the vision, the challenge is that there are large problems that have global impact. How will I act globally? Israel is a small country in terms of area and smaller as far as inhabitants are concerned, but has a global focus. So Israel's challenges are global challenges. You're thinking about markets in which there are great scalability possibilities. So both Johnson & Johnson's and Israel and Startup Nation, they're looking for environments where the institutional and legal framework strengthens the possibility and the braveness to look for unconventional solutions, as the examples that we have when we partner amongst young innovators, companies, and a welcoming environment. Yes, Fernando, I do agree, and I guess that we're running out of time. We have to break now at 11:10. But I'm really very, very happy with the debate that we had this morning with this panel when we focused on the essential topics in innovation and success ecosystems. We talked about government, we talked about society, we talked about universities, we talked about companies themselves. Fernando talked about the city. We talked about ecosystems and very successful examples in different countries. Israel's ecosystem that today can join several multinational corporations in that ecosystem that will nourish themselves to overcome their own problems in an environment which is the most welcoming environment. And due to its characteristics can overcome issues. And then we had a practical case of a ecosystem created by a private company that today, in a very coordinated manner, can deliver for the different startups a welcoming environment to test their ideas, to do businesses, partnering, and create, leave theoretical ideas and implement practice as was shown to foster active innovation. So I'm really very happy. I think there are fantastic tips and insights to work in these innovation ecosystems, and all participants, I guess companies as well as organizations that are interested in innovation ecosystems can enjoy this wealth of material. So thank you really very much for your participation this morning. Thank you for the organizations. Congratulations, José, Rodrigo. Your institution plays an essential role in our sector. And when we talk about innovation and health, we talk about the future of the health sector in our country. Thank you very much. Have a great week.
Thank you.